Hi YouTube, welcome back to the fifth and final episode of the Volvo L120 build. Now in this video we will put in the electronics and I will walk you through step by step on how to set up the electronics for the loader. Now I'm not an electrician and I'm not an expert, but this is the way I set up my loaders. Now this is a very simple diagram on how to connect everything. So basically what this is the battery, and you can see the main lines, they go to the ESCs. So the battery powers the ESCs, of course, and then each ESC has one job. You see one ESC powers the drive motors, and one powers the bucket tilt, and one powers the steering, and the last one powers the lifting. Now all of these ESCs, they are connected to the receiver. And yeah, that's all there is to it. Of course, if you're going to add a sound module and everything, that comes outside of this diagram, but this is the basics. So as you can see, my loader is now ready to have the electronics installed. And these are the ESCs that I'm going to be using today. Now this is the Hobbywing 1060. It's a simple brushed ESC. And this is basically the same ESC, only this is not a Hobbywing, this is a knockoff. This is from China, and I'll be using these three ESCs on the actuators, and I'll be using this red Hobbywing ESC on the drive motors for the wheels. Now the reason I'm using this one for the drive wheels is because this one has a better power curve, you know, when you pull the trigger. It has more steps, so you have a better feeling with driving. So that's why I'm using that for the drive wheels. Anyway, I was thinking we could begin soldering the ESCs together so they all are connected to the same power source. Now as you remember from the diagram, they all are connected to one battery, you see. So we are going to connect all the ESCs together first. I know this is a mess, but I couldn't care less about how the electronics looks inside of a vehicle. So I'm going to do it the fast and effective way, which is just going right at it. Now I have connected all the wires for the battery. All these ESCs are now connected on these wires. So I will have my battery plug on the end here. Now before we continue, I will cut all of these on-off switches because I run my loaders without these switches. What you're going to do then is just cut it right off like this, and then you solder these two wires together. That way the ESC will always stay on. You don't need all of these switches. I want my loader to power on when I put in the battery, so I'm just gonna fix this off camera and I'll be back. All the on-off switches are now cut off and soldered together. I put a heat shrink on top of them so that they don't shorten out on anything. Now the next step will be to remove one of these tabs. Let me put on the lights. So here you can see this ESC has a little programming to it. There's not much, but there's a little of it. You can see that you can choose between a LiPo or a NIM battery. Of course, this will be on LiPo. We're running 3S LiPo battery on these loaders. Now this one, this tab, FBR, FB and FR, that stands for forward brake reverse and forward brake and forward reverse. What you're gonna want to do is put this in forward reverse. Now if you look closely, it tells you to remove the tab in order to choose this setting. So we're gonna remove this tab like so. Now you have to do this on all the ESCs, so I'm going to do that. The red one is already removed. Alright, so if you look at the diagram, we have now completed this step right here. We connected all the ESCs to one wire that runs to the battery. And the next step, I think we will prepare the ESCs for the receiver. As you can see here, I made this note that you can only have one red wire into the receiver from the ESCs. Now, the reason for that, and this is important, is because the red wires that goes from the ESCs, they have a current between 4 and 6 volts running from the ESC into the receiver. Now this red wire powers the receiver, it gives it power. The problem is, if you have several ESCs working together and every single ESC is trying to power the receiver, you might end up with a fried receiver. Now usually this works out very good when you have the same ESCs, but it doesn't really matter, because sometimes one ESC might deliver a little more voltage than the other, and that way the receiver will get broken. So we're going to remove the red wire on all the ESCs except for one. We only want one ESC to power the receiver. So I'm going to try to show you how to remove the red wire without breaking or cutting it off. You take a sharp knife or a sharp tool, you press it in between this lock right here. Let's see if you can see. Focus. There we go. You pry this one in between. Be careful to not cut yourself. You pry this open, and then you can just slide this red wire out. Now remember, this red wire has power to it, so what I usually do, I just bend it backwards like this, and then I take a piece of tape and I isolate it by using this tape. So that's one. Repeat this on all except for one. So I have removed the red wire on all of them except for this one. This one was already cut off, and I'll just leave it as it is. So now all the ESCs are ready for their own outputs. Now this is the wires that should go to the motors or the actuators. Now I'm going to put on some connectors on 3 of these ESCs, these black ones, and this red one I'll just solder it directly onto the motors. Now as you can see on this, on the actuators, they have these connectors red and black, so I will put the same type of connectors onto the ESCs. So these are the connectors that I will be putting on my ESCs for the actuators. and these plugs are called JST connectors. So all the JST connectors are now on the ESCs, and these are now ready to be connected to the receiver. And the final step on these ESCs is to connect this one to the drive motors. Before we connect the drive motors though, we got something we gotta do in this loader. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to solder these two actuators together to join them as one, because these are the lifting actuators and those are two actuators working together. It was a little cramped in space in here, but here you can see that they are now soldered together and they have one connector. So the next step, which is a very important step, is that you test the motors, the drive motors, before you connect them together, because sometimes you might not have connected them the same way on the front axle and the rear axle, which means they could spin against each other. So you could spin the rear axle forwards while the front axle is trying to roll backwards. Now you have to test this before you connect them together. Now it's very easy to do. You just put the battery on the wires and see which way they spin. So you put the red wire to the red battery pole and the black wire to the black battery pole. It's as simple as that. And if they spin the same way on both axles, then you're okay. If they spin against each other, then you have to join the red wire to the black wire. It's kind of hard for me to explain in English, but I think you understand what I mean. So we're going to figure out which way the tires spin on my loader. Okay, so I'm going to test the rear axle first. Remember, connect the red wire to the red wire. So as you can see, when I connected the red wire to the red wire, the tires spun backwards. Now, if they run backwards when I connect the red to the red on the front, it sounds silly, I know, but it's just the way I talk. Also be very careful not to shorten the poles on the battery when doing this. As you can see, my loader is running all the tires the same way when I connect the red to the red. So I will now connect these wires together and I will join the red to the red. Also, a quick important notice is that when using these kind of ESCs, you don't have to worry about connecting the red to whatever pole on the ESC. You can just reverse it on the transmitter if it goes the wrong way. So I have now connected my drive motors onto the ESC. So I'm going to connect my battery plug to the ESCs now. So there's the battery plug. So let's check the diagram once more. We have now connected the battery and the ESCs. We are ready to connect the ESCs to the receiver. We have soldered the drive motors onto the ESC, and we are ready to mount all these actuators onto each ESC. So we're almost done. So for my loader, I will be using the FlySky i6S. Now I will show you how to set it up and how to program the loader. Okay, so if you're following this tutorial step by step, the first thing that we need to make sure is that we run the same sticks mode. So you press this button right here, you go to System on top here, then you scroll to Sticks mode. You press that, and here's my sticks mode. I run M2 on all my machines. Now if you run something different, you need to change this to M2 in order to follow this tutorial step by step. So if we don't run the same sticks mode, we can be arguing about the channels forever. So okay, so before we bind this receiver to the transmitter, we can plug in all the channels. Now we already know that one of these ESCs are connected to the drive motors, which is this one. Now this one we will connect to channel 3. So let me show you. Channel 3 is this one right here. Now you can look at this by, if you scroll your finger from left to right, you get into this menu which shows you all the channels. So if I press this one up, channel 3 will move, and this one is already mixed. Okay, let's go to models and reset model. Now it should be good. Yeah, now it's good. So channel 3 will power the drive wheels, and all the rest of the ESCs, they really, it doesn't matter which one you put them in, but we're going to be using this one as channel 1. Put it in at channel 1. Now if you look at this, channel 1 is this stick right here, sideways. Now we know that this is the channel for the bucket, so we will connect the bucket into this ESC. My bucket is this one right here. So let's see, I connected this ESC. So this is going to be connected to the bucket. Okay, so that's ready. Now the next ESC, we will go with this one. We plug this into channel 2. Sorry, my phone is ringing. Okay, I'm back. We were connecting this ESC right here to channel 2. Now if you take this transmitter and you check channel 2, it's this one. Now this is the channel we will be using to raise and lower the front lifting arms. So we will connect this ESC to the arms, which is this connector right here. There we go. And now we already know that the final ESC will go to the steering actuator, which is this one right here. And we gotta remember to plug in the steering actuator ESC. So this one is going in channel 4. Channel 4 is this one right here. So all the functions are now plugged in the right places, and we can bind this receiver to the transmitter. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna exit this menu by sliding your finger from the right to the left. Then you go to this menu and go to System. You plug in this bind plug. It says BVCC on the top. The B stands for bind. So you put this bind plug in there. Now you put a battery to the ESCs. And you will notice that the receiver right here is flashing quite fast. That means that it's in bind mode. And the next step is press RX bind. It says bind OK, and now you heard the beeps. Everything is bound together. You can just remove the bind plug and you're ready to go. Now you need to reverse some channels in order to have the correct settings. We will begin by the lifting arms, which is on channel 2. They are already in the wrong direction, so I'm going to reverse channel 2. Also channel 1. There we go. Channel 4 is okay, and channel 3 is okay. So now we got a working loader. So now that we got the loader working, I will install a light controller. Now this is a very cheap light controller that I found on AliExpress and eBay. I will put a link to it in the description down below. And what this does is you can run 2 channels of lights on one switch, which means I can run 2 light channels on this switch alone. So I got all my lights right here, and I'm going to install it so when I press this button once, the front lights will come on, and when I press it again, these rear ones will come on. I want these top ones on the front to always stay on. I'm going to show you how easy it is to install this. So the first step is figuring out which light is on which connector. Now, how to do that? You just plug in the battery and you power one to the ESC and see which one lights up. So these are the ones on the front which I wanted to stay on, which is perfect. I'll just leave them in there. Now this one is the light controller, and I will put that at channel 5. So now that we know we have the light controller at channel 5, we are powering up the fly sky, and we need to set up the channel. So you go to function, you scroll down till you come to aux channels. Here you can see channel 5 is not assigned to any switch. So you press this, and if you look closely it says SWA. We're going to press SW, and SWA is right here. You can choose between SWA, B, and C, and D. You can choose between them by pressing this. So now that we have channel 5 at SWA, we know that this is the one modifying the channel. Let's go back, and now we can connect our lights to the light controller. So the way this works, you see right here it says plus, minus, plus. This means that the 2 pins in the middle is for minus and the ones on the outside is for plus. So you're gonna connect your lights with red wires outward, like so. You see? And now when I press, this puts on the rear lights, and when I press it again, these lights will shut off and these ones will come on. You see? And when I press it once more, both of them will come on. And the last and final press, you will get a strobe effect. Now I'm going to swap these 2 lights because I want the front ones to come on first. When I press the button once after I started the loader, I want the front lights to shine. So I'm going to swap these like so. So now when I press the button, the front ones come on first. Okay, that's the lights. Now I think that's everything that I can show you about this loader, and I hope this was helpful. I know it looks complicated once you look at the models and if you've never done this before, but it's really easy. Once you get into it, it's just easy. So as I said, I hope this was helpful, and I'm going to try to tidy up the wires and stuff now, because this looks like a seagull's nest or something. So I'll be back. I'll just tidy up the wires and we can test the loader, maybe even run it outside. So I'll be back soon. Alright, so I stuffed everything as best I could, and there was barely enough room for all these wires. So underneath here, nobody wants to talk about that. So let's put in the battery and test this loader. Never mind, I forgot to put in the quick coupler servo, so god damn it. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to modify this wire and make it to an extension and run this extension wire through the chassis and up here, and then I'll install this on the end right there, and I'll show you when I'm done. So I got the quick coupler lock mounted up, and we're ready to test the loader. Now if you want to see how I set up the quick coupling, there's a separate video of that on my channel. As you can see now, it is locked. I can't take it off, but now I can. It's a bit windy outside today, but we can give the loader a test run and I'll see you outside. Okay, so we are back inside. The testing went 50-50. So there's a big problem. I'm going to show you the bucket links right here. I need to fix this because when I dug the bucket into the pile, I started trying to retract the bucket upwards, but it didn't do it. So there's too much slop in this link area, so I need to figure this out. You can already see it when I'm on the bench. You can see this, it's collapsing on itself. So this needs to be fixed, and I'm going to try some different solutions now, and I'll report back when I am done. So it's the next day and I'm outside testing the new links that I made last night. Now, after testing, I'm pretty sure that this pendulum piece needs to be replaced. I need to make another pendulum that doesn't fall this much back. As you can see, it falls very much backwards. I think it's much better if it was around here somewhere. So I'm going to look into that and make a new pendulum. But the loader is much better now with these links compared to the old ones. So I'm going to paint these. Before I change the pendulum though, I'm going to show you how it performs. But the Volvo doesn't start. Nah, just kidding. Now I gotta say though that this material is probably not the best. This is super heavy. I had to open it up with a shovel or else the loader couldn't even break it. So, well, let's head inside. So I'm back inside and I'm pretty sure that this pendulum needs to be changed. As you can see, it's all the way back now and the bucket should be more curved backwards. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this pendulum model so that it goes a little more upright. I'll need a shorter link here as well, but I'll fix that once I get the pendulum done. The pendulum is ready for print, so let's see how this goes. The new pendulum is now in place. I am working on this long link right here. I'm figuring out the length of this, and I will bring the loader outside soon. As you can see on the pendulum here, I moved the hole down a bit. Now I think I have to move it down even more, and it will give it more power to the bucket. And also, right now it has excessive movement on the bucket, so that will also fix that at the same time. Okay, so I'm ready for, I think this is the final test. I moved this link mount even further down, and I shortened this long link, and I think everything is now dialed in. So I'm going to go outside and test it. So hopefully this is the final, not design, but final concept before I can design the final parts. And also I gotta tell you guys, the stuff that I'm testing this loader in, it's gotta be the worst thing ever. It's so heavy and so compact. I never intended these kind of loaders to work with this stuff. I designed these loaders mostly for working in a sieving plant or mostly dry material. Now this is a nightmare, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to break one of these actuators sometimes, because they stall out. They really do. They are working very hard, so let's cross our fingers and hope they don't break. Anyway, I'm going out. I'm back inside again, and all of these links were perfect. I really liked how they turned out, and now I can begin designing the parts from these mock-up links that I have here. Before I do that though, I'm going to show you the bucket has a better performance now than it had before with these links than the old ones. So when I lift the arms, the bucket pretty much stays almost in the same spot until it comes to the top. Then it wants to tilt a bit forward. But that's a positive thing, because then you can tilt the bucket even more. So I'm going to lift the arms now by only holding down. Yeah, perfect. And then you can tilt the bucket very much. It even bottoms out. So you see these links right here, they hit this quick coupler. This is going to be changed in the future so that you can tilt even more. There's no reason for this to hit the links. But no worries, I will fix that. And when I lower the arms, you can still tilt the bucket. Yeah, almost 90 degrees from that height. And then when you get to this, it's about 50, maybe 55 degrees, which I think is very good. Alright guys, well, this concludes this video, and I now know exactly what I gotta do with this to make it work. And from what I see in the performance of this loader, I think this Volvo is more powerful than the Caterpillar model that I made, mainly because of the placement of these lifting actuators. I think I will release the Volvo files very soon. I have seen enough to be confident enough that this is going to work. I don't feel that it's necessary to test it much more. I'm gonna end this video here, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.